today we are going to be talking about some of the signs that could indicate that you are somebody who's changing and growing spiritually. Like, what are some signs that could indicate that you are somebody who's going through very deep spiritual transformation right now? Maybe you are somebody who is experiencing some of these signs and you're thinking, am I going crazy? Is everything going to be okay? And I tell you, like, I've also experienced many of these signs, and at first I thought like something weird is going on, but then later on found out that I was going through a spiritual awakening. I was going through a spiritual transformation. So the first sign is that a desire to be a hermit and to retreat and just go inward. When I first started to go through my spiritual journey, all I wanted to do was to be alone and to sit with myself. I really wanted to read a lot of spiritual books. I wanted to look up, spiritual videos online. I really went down the rabbit hole of learning a lot and taking a lot of spiritual content, really absorbing a lot of spiritual content. And it was very enjoyable for me. I really enjoyed it because there was a part of me that knew that that was a way in which I was going to get my answers to a lot of questions that I had. And you might find that right now you just want to be a hermit. Maybe you want to sit down and meditate for a couple hours. Maybe you want to do yoga. Maybe you want to do something. And the only way for you to feel comfortable in doing that is for you to really retreat and go into being more of a hermit. Wanting to spend time alone, wanting to spend some time asking the very deep, profound question, like, who am I and what do I actually want? When you start to shut off the voice of the world and you start to tune inwardly, that's when you actually get to hear yourself. You actually get to tune in to your intuition. You get to tune inwardly. And you'll find that right now you are finding yourself in solitude where you just want to be a hermit. And oftentimes it is in the hermit phase where we tend to grow a lot. Because we are going inward, we are taking a break from all the things that we were doing, and we are kind of like secluding ourselves and becoming more isolated. But this is a time where you'll find yourself wanting to do that, wanting to withdraw, wanting to really go within. And oftentimes, this is a breeding ground for a lot of spiritual growth and transformation. Number two is feeling like you don't resonate with some of the people in your life, or you even don't resonate with some of the things that you were doing. Now, when it comes to spiritual growth and transformation, a good key indicator of growth, spiritual growth especially, is when you start to grow in awareness and consciousness. Because when we expand in awareness and consciousness, we start to become aware of certain things that we were very unconscious of. We do that when we start to raise our vibration, when we start to expand in consciousness, we start to really attract a life and a reality that is a direct match and an indicator to our growth, that is a direct match and indicator to the change that's happening within ourselves. So you'll find that, as you grow, you start to really understand that there are people in your life, there are things that you were doing, maybe a job that you didn't like, but you did it anyway. There were friends that, you always found that you just don't really resonate with them any longer, and sometimes even family members. And this can be a very difficult time because you start to understand that you actually love and care for these people, but actually you also are outgrowing them. You also find that you don't resonate any longer. It's like they're part of a version of yourself that you was, but not the version of yourself that you are becoming. So it's very difficult for you to relate with them. And of course, you are growing spiritually, so the vibrational frequency is changing, and so you'll find that there's like a mismatch that's happening. And this really forces us to change the people we surround ourselves by. It forces us to really change the, living situation, our home situation, our job situation. We tend to want to, leave a career behind to pursue something else because we just find that that career is no longer resonating with us. And I remember a couple of years ago, at least about 5 to 6 years ago, I graduated as a school teacher, and I really thought that that was going to be my path for the rest of my weightings is that I was going to be in a classroom and I was going to be teaching kids, and I was passionate about that at that time. But when I was started to grow spiritually, I started to find that I became out of resonance with that. It felt like if I go and pursue that, it would be like going down the wrong path. And I started to really gravitate towards wanting to share spiritual knowledge and wanting to help other people in a very spiritual way. So I followed that resonance. I really followed that resonance in, and I really found that that career path, the teaching, was a career path that had so much of dissonance. It really felt like, that was not my path any longer. So you find that you might want to even change a career field. You might want to leave a career behind or something like that. But this happens as a byproduct of you growing spiritually. Number three is that your sensitivity increases. What I mean by this, your sensitivity increases, is that you become more susceptible to energy and you become more susceptible to life. You really open up. When we are on the spiritual journey, we tend to go through the Kundalini awakening. We tend to have our chakras opening up. We tend to, really understand that there are certain things that we can perceive. And our sensitivity really opens us up. It really opens us up to everything. And a lot of times it is to energy and to other people's energy. And we start to really, feel other people's emotion. We start to become psychic. We start to become intuitive. We start to really open our spiritual gifts up. And all of these experiences are so overwhelming. But most importantly, your sensitivity allows you to tune into these experiences. You find that life experiences become much more profound, and you start to also be able to notice certain things, notice other people's emotions, be able to read other people. This actually becomes stronger as time goes on, and as time goes on, you will definitely learn to really harness your ability as an empath and harness your psychic abilities, so that it becomes much more comfortable for you to tune in. And I definitely would say that when you have a very heightened sensitivity, you also have a very heightened intuition. And what this really helps us with is to really live from an intuitive place. I remember for me, I started to become an intuitive eater like a couple years ago, and that changed my life. It changed a lot about the way in which I eat. Once I started to open myself up to my intuition in terms of food, my intuition started to get louder in other areas of my life as well. So I never really had such a strong intuition, in this way. But when I started to become more sensitive, when I started to go through my Kundalini awakening, I started to notice that my intuition was definitely getting stronger, more tapped in, and even more correct. Like, it really made sense as to why my intuition was guiding me here. And so you'll find your sensitivity really starts to open up during this time. Start to grow in awareness, as we mentioned. You start to grow in awareness. You start to understand that you have a mind, that you are not your mind. You have a mind, and that within the field of thoughts that you have during the day, there are certain mind patterns that are very much automatic. They are there due to conditioning, they are there due to belief system. We start to become aware that we have this within ourselves, and we start to work through it. And for me, I remember I used to sit down with my journal, and I used to sit down with my pen, and I used to start to write down like beliefs that I had running in myself that was automatic. I started to understand that we have the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, and that I have the ability to change my mindset. I have the ability to recondition myself. I have the ability to adapt better belief system, much more positively aligned belief systems about myself. And this made me really excited, knowing that there was a way for me to better myself, knowing that there was a way for me to shift my mindset. That I was becoming aware that these things were possible. I was becoming aware that, I can actually do this. And when you start to recognize that you have patterns within yourself, you start to recognize that, okay, these things were very much automatic. These things have been within myself, and I have the ability to change this. I have the ability to shift that. You start to really chip through, and you start to work through it. And we start to go deeper and deeper and deeper. And I think that this is the biggest indication that you are going through the spiritual growth transformational process, because you are gaining the awareness that you have these thoughts that you can, shift and change. You have an aspect of your mind that you can recondition. We start to understand that we can shift our mind so that we can change a lot of things about the way in which we function. Things that are on autopilot, we can change them and we can shift them within ourselves. Number 5 is that feeling like there's something greater out there that you need to get in touch with, knowing that there's a certain pull that's pulling you towards something bigger than yourself, something greater than yourself. I've worked with a couple of spiritual people who have mentioned this feeling of like, feeling like there's something within yourself that you need to access, not knowing what it is, but feeling like it has been there your whole life, feeling like you just cannot access it, but feeling like it's there. And people oftentimes describe this as just like, there's a part of me that I want to get in touch with and tap into, but I just don't know how to. I don't know what it is. It's just a feeling I have within myself. And you might find that you start to become more and more aware that this feeling within yourself is calling you towards it. You are able to feel like there's a part of you that's greater than yourself. And the whole spiritual journey is about walking towards that feeling. It's walking and tapping into that feeling. When you do find that feeling, when you do find that place, the centeredness, the home within yourself, deeper within yourself, you just don't know what it is. You can't put a name towards it, but you feel it. And you might find that you feel like you just need to find out. You might go through many books, and you might go through just seeking and being like a seeker. And I remember for me in the beginning of my spiritual journey, writing down that I need to find out the truth about myself, because I just feel like the truth was just not out there in the world. Although, I felt like books and teachers were helping me to go inward, but it just felt like I had to figure out what is this thing within myself that I feel like I am, but I just cannot tap into. And that feeling is like your authentic self. It's like who you are. It's your spirit. It's you on a spiritual level. And when we get to access that, we tend to access a whole new level of ourself. This feeling, this feeling is like coming back to yourself. It's coming back home, which is the whole aim of the spiritual journey, is to walk towards that and to access it as much as we can. And that I think that's a great indication that you are somebody who is going through that spiritual transformation. It's just being able to understand that you want to access, is being able to understand that you feel like you need to be a seeker. You feel like there's a strong pull towards you finally finding out what is that feeling. Now, thank you so much for watching this video. If you resonated with any of the signs I shared, do comment down below. I'd like to hear more from you. Maybe you find that there are the signs that you experienced that was a great indication that you are going through a very deep, profound spiritual transformation. Remember, you are not going crazy. You are just awakening right now. You are awakening to who you are. And these are the signs, oftentimes, that is an indication that you are on a specific path. And the more you follow that feeling, the more you follow that resonance, you'll find that that path will take you to where you need to be. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you are somebody who is right now on the spiritual journey, you are seeking one-on-one spiritual guidance, I do provide one-on-one coaching sessions. You can find more information about that in the description down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you so much for receiving today. Take care of yourself, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.